Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, I'm grateful for JCRC for this invitation, and it's an honor for me to speak today at this Freedom Seder. I want to begin. I will tell you a short story which our President Zelensky, who is actually Jewish, by the way, told the story he told in one of his video addresses. And the story is about a 96-year-old Boris Romanchenko. When he was 17, he was put to a Buchenwald Nazi concentration camp, and in the next 3 years he went through and survived the Peenemünde, Dora Mittelbau, and Bergen-Belsen concentration camps. You can imagine what he has gone through. But he was killed by a Russian strike which hit his small apartment in an ordinary Kharkiv city multi-story apartment building. He had served for many years as the vice president of the Buchenwald Dora International Committee, devoting himself to documenting the Nazi crimes. But now, unfortunately, Ukraine has to document the crimes of Russia. After yesterday, actually day before yesterday already, the awful photos of dead civilian bodies were discovered on the streets of the town of Bucha, which is near Kiev, after Russian forces were pushed to leave this town, which was under Russian occupation for several weeks. And these people were civilians, not military. And those who were lucky enough to survive, to stay alive, they tell horrible stories about the unheard terrorism and suffering. Huge numbers of evidences of rapes, torture, and murders of civilian people by Russian armed forces. Ukrainian authorities already discovered huge mass graves of killed civilian people in this town. So what it is, if not deliberate execution and elimination of Ukrainians? Because during Second World War, the Jews were killed by the Nazis just because, for one reason, because they were Jews. And the same horrific situation we have now at the moment facing in Ukraine. Ukrainians are murdered by Russians just for the one reason, because they are Ukrainians. During Second World War, many countries and nations, they show their indifferences and wasting time to save the Jewish people. Where they act and react faster, maybe the consequences would be not as awful for Jewish people. That's what we need from the world right now. We Ukrainians know that Passover is the holiday which commemorates the liberation from slavery. And we Ukrainians have always historically been fighting for freedom. And now we're also fighting for freedom, and from the attempt to make the free Ukrainian people modern-day slaves of Putin dictatorship regime, which many Russians, unfortunately, are afraid to resist in their own country. I myself was born in Odessa. That's a city on the Black Sea where Jewish population once upon a time constituted almost the majority before the immigration. And I was raised in an environment where we respected the Jewish traditions. And on the way from Odessa to Kiev, to capital of Ukraine, there is Uman city, and there is a grave of Tzaddik Nachman, a place where thousands of Jewish people were visiting every year on Rosh Hashanah. And months ago, Russian forces bombed the city center of Uman, and one civilian was killed and 5 were injured. So the holy place for thousands of Jewish was actually bombed. I really hope that this year, in September, the peace will come to our country and all the Jewish people will be able to come to visit Uman. I know that Jewish organizations here in the Bay Area especially, they already help Ukrainians a lot. Ukrainian refugees also on the border who are crossing from Mexico, and hopefully when it will be allowed for them to arrive legally by Biden's administration, a lot more help will come from Jewish organizations. But I urge all of you not to stay aside, not to get tired of this war, not to be indifferent, not to take a position of neutrality. Be open and strong in your support. Because to win this war, to protect our independence, Ukraine, we need help with weapons, with strong economic sanctions, and humanitarian and sometimes financial help. And Ukrainian people will do the rest. Will protect Europe, will protect freedom in the whole world. Because what we Ukrainians need the most is peace. And we pray for peace to come in Ukraine as soon as possible. And we ask you to pray too. Thank you very much.